was going to say, I'm not hearing that.
Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork.
Don't see the curvature of the earth. That stuff is what?
GLOBEBUSTERS taking up. Bye-bye, moon man and rover. Now so mediocre. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is GLOBEBUSTERs taking up. Gotta ride this roller coaster. But the truth is getting closer. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is. Get the shovel for the spice of a piecing up the puzzle. Need a buster bubble. Evil gonna crumble, yeah? Sit down, be humble. Got the body by the fumble. You'll get mad cause I just fight about your uncle.
And then they call me the liar. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable the pathetic techniques that they have to use to prove their heliocentric model.
Bob shut the president, Jaren got the evidence. It was slaying Jesuits and Zachar from is evident. That the earth electric and it's resonant. Your residence is heavens and I hope to settle in like some sediment. If we so wrong, why they lying to discredit it? That's not too intelligent. That's a guy not in court, but we ain't really in the settlement. It's time to awaken from the pseudoscience sedatives.
GLOBEBUSTERs taking over. Bye-bye, moon man and rover. That's just so mediocre. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is GLOBEBUSTERs taking over. Gotta ride this roller coaster. But the truth is getting closer. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is
Inner World Productions.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLOBEBUSTERS Tech. I'm your host, Zach. Good times for all. And today we will continue our conversation about RH negatives. Let's talk about it. Part 2, basic typing. If you didn't get to see last week's show, I would recommend. It's not a prerequisite for this one, but it was more showing how they're covering up the true history of where people started off and where they traveled to, and it's really weird why they're doing it. I believe it destroys their narrative of history in general and where everything started and where people, moved to from one place to another throughout time. And that it just throws a wrench in their whole history of how everything, started and was built up, all across the plane. So last week was more about that. This week we're going to be getting into actual blood types, what they mean, how they're passed down, and how certain ones can skip generations and things like that. It's just really interesting. But before we do that, we're going to say hello to the panel, and we'll start off with Miss Karen B. Karen, how was your week, ma'am?
It's been good. I'm doing good. Happy to be here. RH negative.
In the house. Yes. Did you get any nice rocks? Did any rocks speak to you? I know you and Cammie went to a rock show.
Oh, yes. Yes. Some rocks spoke to me. I don't have them with me up here, though. They're still downstairs. But, yes, I got some cool pieces. It was fun. We had a good time.
Yeah, she brought back some amazing stuff.
Yeah, there was some cool stuff there. It was cool.
Excellent. All right, moving on, we're going to say hello to Mr. Kyle Adams. Kyle, how are you doing, sir?
Doing really well. I've actually been talking a lot about biology lately. Been explaining this thing that I call the bread pan principle, which states that the human genome isn't getting continually better and better, as a lot of evolutionists out there claim. It's actually getting worse and worse, generation from generation. If you look around, diabetes is not getting, it's not disappearing. It's just getting worse and worse from generation to generation. And if you look at people's teeth, okay, studies are showing, if you look at archaeology, these skeletons that people dig up, they had better teeth than we do. And so there's a growing need for braces in our days. And people are like, oh, well, that's just environmental factors. I'm like, yeah, the environment ends up denting the bread pan. It ends up destroying our genome and just destroying it faster and faster. And so in an overall outlook, the human genome itself isn't made to last forever. At least, yeah, it's very mortal, just like the rest of us. And humanity itself has a time limit.
Yeah, it's real interesting when you look at it that way, that there is a time limit to this clock, that it isn't, at least for man.
Yeah, this whole setup currently isn't built to last forever. Not under these conditions, anyway.
All right. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you dig up out of that. Awesome, man.
Yeah, it's
And
fun.
last but not least, we have Ms. Cami Nodell. Cami, how are you doing this week?
Oh, I'm doing okay. It has been a heavy week. Heavy week in like many ways. Want to send out shout outs and love to friends. We have Joelle who's in the hospital, and I'm burning candles for you. I'm still waiting for you to update some posts, and another good friend, Jana, who's going through some hard times and that. So different people, Truce Roops and other fun things and that. But shout outs to them. Missing you, Liz. But more or less a heavy week too. Missing my friends, and didn't have enough time with Karen at the rock show, though I'm being greedy about it. But heavy week because we took down crepe myrtle, pruning it, and while pulling on the string as hard as I could, or on the rope while he was trimming, the rope broke and down I all fell. So I went boom. So I'm feeling a lot of the aches and pains and that ongoing full force. If you think of your tug of war and somebody laughing and throwing up the rope, that's pretty much what the universe did. I was pulling, the rope snapped, and I went boom.
Too
But
strong. You were just too strong.
yeah, I was just too strong. I called it a kite string. He said it was a rope, but yeah, I was just too strong for the rope. But yeah, it's been a good week. It's time again is just crazy right now. I can't believe how quickly it's going. Kyle, what you're talking about, the world, the age of man, which that's literally what world, the etymology of world is the age of man. I'm hoping to cover some of that too on the talking about it, because one of the things they do say about our H negative is that it's a mutation, is how it's usually described, as a mutation, which I found it interesting because the mutation is of something. In other words, RH or rhesus is, for people wanting to know and jumping down on this strange, is rhesus comes from the rhesus monkey. I think I looked up the word rhesus on there, and again, it primarily talks about the monkey and the blood in that, but it's a protein found in the rhesus monkey in that, and it's found in most humans, but it's a protein that's not found in a group of people. So it's actually missing. So it's not really a mutation. A mutation is usually something changes or adds or mutates. So I would almost think that the positive to me would make sense being a mutation, as opposed to I guess you can have always the deletion of genes. Now you're taking it further, but to me it didn't. Some of the things looking at it, it didn't make sense to me that, again, your lack of it doesn't seem to be the mutation. It seems to me it would make sense the other way around it. The additive. This one, when we're looking at today, last week we went into, again, RH negatives, some past histories, some oral histories, some who are they really, and we opened up a lot of questions. I know that I got a lot of feedback from this show, more so than we've gotten from most of the shows in the past. I've got emails, a lot of trails to look into that emails concerning people writing things from have I heard with the RH negatives and like having incredibly quick labors where they're having the babies quickly. And does that tie into biblical stories? I've had a lot of people write their family stories and either with problems or without problems, with ROGAM, without ROGAM, being proud about, again, not having any problems, and no vaccines and the kids being beautiful, which, I thought was, wonderful. But again, it's gotten a lot of feedback. And one of the big questions is, or misnomers is what is my blood type? How do I know? And to me, some of the misinformation written into the way that they write blood types. So from there, I guess I'm going to keep talking. And he's got a scientific page on there. Everybody has heard of. I've taken from here. We're going to take you back to probably 6th or 7th grade genetics, away a little bit further back than where you're going in the genome. But most of this stuff hasn't changed and is very much the same. And yet it's the way that they write it. It's very easy to get lost in it and have it not make sense. So we're going to see if we can simplify it. Everybody has heard of the ABO blood, meaning that you either have A blood, B blood, O blood, or AB blood. And then with that, you have a plus or a minus after it. And when you ask them what your blood type is, usually they will tell you you have no reason to know. If you do go to the doctor and say, what's my blood type, they'll tell you, nope, there's no reason that you need to know this, and no insurance will not cover that. And that I know because I did even some blood tests on myself a while back on it. Would you know that people that do want to know their blood types, one way to get it is to donate blood, and they tell you what blood type you are when you donate blood. Karen, how did you find out what blood type you were?
I have multiple babies, and so I've had to get the ROGAM shot. One thing, like if you're RH negative, they give you a shot. It's called the ROGAM shot, and it's
And that's in
basically,
case you're having a RH positive
yeah, in
child,
case
correct?
you're having an RH positive baby, so that your body does not develop antibodies which actually try to attack your baby that you're trying to grow inside of you to full term.
That's
So that's how
wild.
I found out.
Now, that makes me wonder, like, are
And they
RH
don't tell you why,
negatives?
by the way, when you're pregnant, they're just like, "Oh, you need to get this shot." And then they give you the shot and that's it. Like they don't explain why.
Yeah.
I had figured that out later.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
They give you the shot,
are
they give
RH
you a card.
negatives supposed to pass down along with a positive? I mean, it seems like it's not, nature is trying to stop that from happening.
Yeah, it's weird.
Though an
It is
RH
weird.
reproducing with another RH, there's negative is no problem. In other words, that's what we're going to take it to the basics of. So let's just go in and look at blood basics on there. They're going to say what the RH system is, and they're going to say what your blood type is, and it'll be fun when we get to the populations on it too, because this is what I find is interesting between the RH and the O. Both O and the RH negative, in other words, if you take these are two separate things. So the A, B, or O, think of O as just simply a red blood cell. A is simply that same red blood cell that has a little protein on it that has a squiggle, and you can even make the squiggle look like an A, in shorthand, and that just to make it easy to look at it. So it's that red blood cell that's got an A on it, and so if you have that A on that, and you're getting blood, you can get blood from somebody with A blood, that squiggle, that's not going to matter. You can get blood with that's just O because you have that red blood cell, that's not going to matter. But if you're an O blood type, all of a sudden these squiggles, that A squiggle is a problem. You just have that red blood cell without that protein as your blood type. So you see that A or you see that B as an allergen, an antigen, something that causes a reaction, something again that it does not, your blood sees it as an impurity. And it is an impurity because, again, your type O, if you look at your picture there, it's just your red blood cell. And they're doing some nice on it. Type A, they drive pictures of, like, again, what the little proteins or antigens or allergens. You can call them all the same. The sugars and that, again, it's just something, an additive that it would be like your type O with this on top of it. And your
And it's
B,
always connected to the outside of the cell, correct?
and it's always on the outside of the cell.
Okay.
And so you'll see where you see your type A and you see your type B and you see your type A and B that has both, right? So as simple as that. Now, the thing about your blood types are is you inherit your blood types. You get one from each parent. Okay. Well, actually, before going there, now take it back to your. So your O is your pure blood, your purest, and then your AB is going to be kind of like your most impure if you're going to look at just, again, from a purity standpoint. Then with that, along with that, you have that plus or the minus with it. The minus just says you don't have that RH protein, it's not there. The positive says that you do have it. So far, so good?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now
There
when
it
you're
is.
looking at it,
Here it is. Did you want
okay.
this one yet with the parents?
We can go to that in a minute, I think.
Okay.
That might be taking us over there. I still like that picture that you had there, just again, just showing the different proteins and that's
Okay.
on there. And again, it works very much the same as is your RH negative would be kind of like your type O, that there's nothing there. And your RH positive would be that there's something there. Now, when they go and type U, keep in mind that all of your blood type is always going to be 4 letters, or actually 2 letters and 2 symbols. Am I making this too confusing? So in other words, even if you're an O, it's going to be very easy, because if you're an O, remember you have no proteins on it, right? You know that on both sides of it, you're an O. So you're going to have a double O always. Anytime you're an O, you're a double O, which I'm going to find fascinating on most of the population is O's.
That's down here.
But if you're a AO or a BO, you're going to express simply as an A or a B, because you're going to, when you're testing it, you're going to pick up those proteins or those antigens. So you're not going to see that you're running that O behind it. But even if you don't see it, you can pass on that O to your child. So you could have 2 parents, for instance, that are, one parent is an AO and one parent is a BO. So you have one parent that's an A blood type and one person that's a B blood type that have an O baby, for the fact that you've got that O as a second digit behind each one of them. That's what we might want to draw out. Kyle, I see that you're lost on that. So maybe you draw it out or that. So on here, so
I'm
think
just
about
following
it.
along here, and yeah, this is all really fascinating. I'm just going to read along, and I'm noticing that it's talking about how your blood type can change if you scroll down.
Yes, and you can get into it
more.
where it can change, and you can get into other things like that. Also with the RH negative, there's also within that a subset of the RH null, which is called the golden blood, which is extremely, extremely rare. I think they estimate that there's 50 people in the entire world with this, and this is a blood that is has absolutely none of the antigens, where, like, again, your RH negatives still have a little bitty subsets of them, but there's actually something called the golden blood that has none of these antigens or impurities, and it would be, again, called your world's purest, meaning that, again, there's no additives to it or no extra proteins or extra. No, when I say additives or positive or negative, these are not in good or bad contexts. They're just a absence of, or it's not that one's better than the other. It's one doesn't have, one does have.
You
RH
described
brought up
antigen.
Go ahead.
So can
You
people be
described
allergic?
antigens as a bad thing, kind of like an impurity.
hmm
Interesting.
So
So
can people be allergic to another blood group? In a way, people are allergic to other blood groups, meaning that that's why they take note of these different blood types, and why they know it is if you get a blood transfusion or mixed bloods, you will have a allergic reaction, or the blood will actually clump and collate if you mix different ones. Now, with on there again, think about what we're saying, that you would have to throw an allergen at somebody that doesn't have it. So in order to get the allergic reaction, an O blood type could not get blood from anybody that's A or B.
Yeah,
But
their body would start attacking it.
their body would start attacking it. On the other hand, an A or B could get blood just fine from an O because of the fact that the O doesn't have either one of those allergens on it. It's pure. It doesn't have. So think of antigens as allergens. That's almost as a neat way to think about it because, again, this is not medical advice. We are not being doctors. We are taking this to the most basic flashbacks of like 7th grade genetics, except for, again, they taught you past it and then you remembered the shorthand and nobody remembers that the longhand that you always get one from each parent. So again, if you're an A, you're an A wet, or you're an AA, or you an AO, because it's going to look the same on your blood cell if they test your blood cell.
And when they test the blood cell, they're just observing the blood cells themselves and
Exactly, and what proteins are on it, and they're
the
reacting, and they're also seeing how they react to the other. Like
Is that
again,
was
you
kind of the
can
way the
when you
illustration
match
was
blood, you can
before?
cross match blood, or if you think of the oldest terms in which they've written out of things, and I was even looking for it. Blood brothers used to be blood brothers that you would mix the blood, and the blood would mix and not coagulate and clump up. You were blood brothers. Your brothers or your blood was mixable. You can now get different definitions of the blood brothers, but yeah, you will have your blood will literally have an allergic reaction to that other blood if it's not compatible.
Which
And
is
so
why
it's
it's
kind
very
of a
dangerous
big
to mix
deal.
blood.
It's kind of a big deal when you get blood donations, but you say, is it an allergen if you, what about other things like that? Can you have sex with, can you mate with, can you do this? And this is where it gets crazy is, it doesn't seem to be an allergen as far as reproducing, except for when you have the combination of the Rh negative mother with the Rh positive father.
Mm-hmm.
What can happen in that situation, and that would be especially true, like you would say it would happen 100% of the time if your Rh positive father is an Rh positive positive. Remember that positive could, as generations go, be holding a negative, and you could have a negative, again, produce a negative with that back one. But let's assume that they're a positive positive.
What now? I'm sorry.
I don't know, you're scrolling now, so I was looking to see what you were scrolling at.
So I'm just looking at this, and it's just the bumps on the cell. That's kind of the way it's
Mhm.
described. And so having more bumps on the cell seems to be a bad thing. And I'm just kind of thinking
Well,
about just kind of
I
not
don't
really,
know if
because
it's
that
good or
bad thing
bad.
is, well, think about what it is that with your AB blood, with the most bumps on it, you can get blood from everybody. If you're an AB positive, nobody's blood is going to irritate you. You have the component. In other words, you have all of the different proteins on there, and so you can take blood from type O, type A, or type B, because there's nothing in there that's going to bother your system at all. On the other hand, if you're a type O with a pure blood and you threw type A, B, or AB at it, any one of those is going to cause an allergic reaction.
okay, so it's
And that's
battle
on a
hardened.
direct
I
blood
guess you could say it's
confusion.
battle
So it's like
hardened.
it could be a good or a bad. And that's why they're going to say, like, within that, the type O is the universal donor,
Mm-hmm. O
But I
but the
negative.
type
O
imagine you might
AB
negative.
have a
is the
harder time
universal
kind of putting through.
recipient. In other words, the type AB can receive from anybody, but the type O can give to anybody, but they can only receive from another type O. And again, this is taking you down to the basics. Serious question, is being Rh negative considered bad? I hear some people say that. Stacks, that's a great serious question. That's why we're talking about it, is discussed in conspiracy theories and discussed in different ways, and where they put it in and place it in history with the Aryans, Rh negatives and lizard people, different things through the pages. They do make it, they try to demonize it. I mean, they try to demonize it, or they try to mislead on it, and that's why we're talking about it. It's not a bad thing at all. What's interesting with the statistics, though, is how the statistics again come up with different groups of people, like again, for instance, mothers of autistic children tend to score high on it. Same with people in the flat Earth community. There seems to be the rate of people I know in the flat Earth community that are aware of their blood types. When I get in a room, I'll be in a room, we'll talk blood types, and it will be usually more towards 70-80%, where it should be at about 15% or 14%. And so that's caught my attention. It got my attention too when I talked with, like, again, mothers of autistic children in the different groups and asking blood types. Is it standing out because I'm looking at it or looking for it, or is it really there?
Nico in chat asked, do animals have different blood types? I've
A lot
never
of
thought
animals
of
have
that
even
before.
more blood types than this, and I keep thinking about that.
Mhm.
I don't know if they have different blood types, but I'm pretty sure the Rh negative thing is only a human thing.
There it's negative one, and this is where, again, when we're talking about allergens, these are talking about actually taking somebody else's blood or blood products and injecting it into your body. So overall, you wouldn't really notice the allergies or things on it. You wonder if some of the plus minus mixes or different mixes with it have some impact on like autoimmune diseases and things you're talking about through time, where you're seeing this arthritis more and teeth going down and different things where your body is attacking each other. Because again, what this is causing is it causes your own body to attack, see that as a foreign object and go after and attack it. What happens with an Rh negative mother is again, we're on the point where we're putting them with an Rh positive father, is the first child you have, you're going to have through gestation, but usually at the time of giving birth there's a mixture of blood. And when there's a mixture of blood, they'll say that again, the mother's body at that point develops antibodies when it mixes blood. So the firstborn is usually very healthy, but then when you get pregnant again and you're in utero, and that your body is seeing that baby's blood type as foreign, and the blood exchange and that going through, and again at birth you'll tend to have high anemia and a lot of different problems. It's called hemolytic disease, or that you can go into Rh negative diseases. It's why it's red flagged is again, the mother's body will tend to, after the firstborn, recognizing the other child that's Rh positive, the body sees it as a foreign, something
Like
to fight,
invader.
a
Yeah.
foreign invader, and your body will fight. So no, that doesn't happen in the other species, and that where it is, it's cut off and done. That seems to be unique with the humans and the Rh negative, where the other ones, and that might be the question, that why on the recessives, why is O as a recessive the highest type as far as the letters? The most people in the world are O, which is a recessive. Again, if you show the A or the B, you're going to express it. Yeah, more people express the O blood type, and yet the Rh negative is supposedly such a small
I thought it was
sliver of the
interesting
population.
that the AB positive was such a low percentage. So it's like
Well,
AB in
this is in
general.
Australia only.
Oh,
You
It
can
says.
do another one on the USA. It's got another, there's a population on one of the charts I gave you that gave the US population charts. And then also on that one, it has a world type on it too.
A quick look. Dogs have 12 different blood types.
Wow. So yeah, 1 in 3 people are O positive. 1 in 15 are O negative. And then it goes down to AB negative, 1 in 167 people.
wow.
That's a big jump.
I've got to go dig out my dog tags and remember which one I am.
But yeah, the negatives all seem to be lower than their positive counterparts.
Yeah.
Like drastically lower.
I think total it's like 15% people worldwide have Rh negative blood.
That one, I've actually seen that number in in America and in Europe, because I've seen numbers as low as 4% in Asia.
Did you want me to blow this one up at all?
You can, because I cannot see at all what it says.
Me too.
And this will tell you too. If you are A negative, you can receive O negative, and you can receive A negative. This is going to again take you out to the blood type compatibilities, and where you sit there and say your A to B positives, your universal recipients there, they can receive everything, but your O negatives can give to everybody going down. So again, if you take your chart on there, now keep in mind every time you see an O on there, fill it in with 2 O's. Just automatically, anytime you see an O, fill it in with 2 O's. Anytime you see a minus, fill it in with 2 minuses. And then as soon as you have a plus sign, it would be a plus sign with a question mark. You'd want to know what's that second one. What's the one behind it? Is it a plus or a minus? If you guys wanted to figure out what your blood type is or what your family blood type is, this is pretty easy to work their way through, just looking at this, like again, as a chart and switching it the way it is, always to 4 digits. And again, 4 digits is not as hard as I'm making it sound, that O's will always be double O's, and negatives will always be double negatives, and ABs will always be ABs. And so your only questions are your A, is it an AA or an AO? Your B, is it a BB or a BO? And your positive, is it a positive positive or a positive negative? And again, once you start filling in things around you, so like for instance, I can take my blood type and say, hey, I'm an A negative. What does that mean? Right off the bat, because I have a negative, I know that I am an A question mark, negative, negative. So now I just have one question mark. Am I an AA or am I an AO? Well, that one's kind of easy because I was born of an O positive mother who happened to know that, and I gave birth to one O positive and one O negative child. So I happen to know that I am AO negative negative. From that, I also know that Bob was
That's this chart.
AO. Mm-hmm.
I
So
really
from
wish they would share more medical information when it comes to family history work. When you're trying to
mm-hmm.
like look at your ancestors, I think that would be kind of something important to write down in like your family journals or something like that. You know what I mean? That's
I
all
think
kind of
it'd
a
be,
newer concept.
they try to keep people away from it and say it doesn't affect or don't look at that. And then again, when you start to looking at the bloodlines through that, they take you into immediately like dark areas, like you're doing Hitler-esque or something dark about it, instead of, again, they dissuade you from looking at it honestly, even looking at it and writing it down shorthand the way they do. There's no reason, again, not to write things out. Again, if you don't know the fourth a question mark, writing it out with unknowns in it, and you would figure out a lot more of your knowns going along. But this is going to go back to what I talked about with vaccines, and that is can they, are they able to test for a recessive blood type? If you're testing for what you're expressing, if you have something recessive, can they test for it in the genomes? That would be interesting to see how that's an honest question. From these shows, I want to learn. We're having these shows, mostly this show right here, this topic, because this has been one of the most widely asked questions on the sidebar, where people are, what do you know about?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
the
there's all
reasons,
kinds of wild ideas about what the RH negative, what it all means.
like a formula with variables, why yes, just like that. So yeah, we can, again, even probably continue this one over. Jana can come join us and do the different formulas, and you can write things out for it. So I would know my blood type, and I would know my husband's blood type just even by, well, I knew his mother's too, but the fact that we gave birth to two O children, both of us were A blood types, so that tells us right there that we're both carrying O as a recessive. And gave birth to one positive, one negative, which tells me that Bob's blood type would have been AO positive negative, and mine would have been AO negative negative. So again, it works out. It's really fascinating, the genetics of it. As far as, again, it doesn't usually get into they say it doesn't cause any problems, but again, we talk about things that when you have sex with somebody, you exchange blood sometimes, and there are different things where you get blood exchanges and no problems, and we talk about the rise in autoimmune diseases and how much more of that's out there, Kyle. So again, that goes into what you were talking about. Were you on show or off a show when you were talking about are we degrading as opposed to evolving? Are we de-evolving?
I was on the show. Yeah, I was talking about the breadpan principle, kind of in my intro. The breadpan principle is talking about how our genome is like a bread pan, and it just gets more and more dented over time. And so anytime people try to make a loaf out of that bread pan, it's got the same dent in it with every loaf. And no matter how much time goes on, that genome, it doesn't exactly repair itself. It can kind of fill in with some other genes out there, but when the collective pool of genes ends up continually getting more and more dented with each generation, it's got an eventual expiration date where it's just going to be no good anymore. That's why we see so much more cancer in days today than our ancestors ever saw.
That would be one way of doing it there, but I don't know if it's that or what we're also doing to ourselves with, again,
I was
the way
going to
we
say a lot of
manipulate.
that's probably diet.
Mhm.
Diet and getting injected
there's a
with
number of factors.
poisons. Getting injected with poisons repeatedly is probably also a bad thing.
Yeah, and that's just speeding the process along.
They have done numerous, not one, but numerous studies as far as the skeletons and the teeth that you're showing and talking about. And that the skeletons and the teeth degrading came right hand in hand with the popularity of sugar. We love our sugar.
Well, sugar is going to cause your teeth to degrade, but it's not going to make your teeth crooked. And so that was kind of the whole thing here. Is more and more children these days are needing braces, and so it's kind of
they're having their wisdom teeth removed.
Yeah, getting their wisdom teeth removed, and people are like, "Oh, well, our diets have changed." I'm like, "Yes," and there was one person who was arguing that, "Oh, well, if you just have the right diet, then you're not going to need braces." I'm like, okay, if that were true, then all of my kids would, if they've all been raised on the same diet, kind of a thing, then the same observation should be apparent with all my children. You know what I mean? When I've got just one child that needs braces and the rest are fine, that is a big red flag for me. It's just like, oh yeah, it's not necessarily a diet thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it depends what the dental problem is, too, though.
Yeah.
Some of it is diet, and some of it is other stuff, I think.
Yeah, with my daughter, her teeth were like back wisdom teeth were kind of growing in at the wrong angle. That's kind of pushing the other teeth forward, and so she had to get braces at an earlier age to kind of.
I think that's like kind of what wisdom teeth are meant to do, because I had all my wisdom teeth pulled out, and I'm telling you right now, I have felt over the years my bite change in the back, right? Like, and I've had teeth crack. And I had really good teeth most of my life. I never had to have braces. I never, I was not like I didn't have heavy cavities. But I feel like removing those back teeth allowed the rest of my teeth to just kind of wander around in my mouth. And over time, my bite has changed because I didn't allow those wisdom teeth to grow in and push my teeth forward and keep them in place and keep my bite stable.
Mm.
So, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think I complain all the time that I had my wisdom teeth ripped out and I wish I still had them.
Yeah,
Honest to
I feel
God.
like there's kind of weird things with wisdom teeth, and yeah, what I don't understand is why I only had one wisdom tooth. How does that work?
I've heard
Well,
that.
you know what? They just grow in at different times. Maybe it's just when your body needs it because like when I initially had my wisdom teeth pulled out, I had 3 teeth pulled out because and my dentist told me, "Oh, the fourth one isn't there." Well, a few years later in my early 20s, that fourth one grew and popped out. And you know what? It didn't hurt. Like it was fine. Like the wisdom tooth popped out and then there was no tooth above it, so it grew a little bit more tall than the rest of my teeth. And if I opened my mouth big to take a bite of something, that tooth would get hooked on the tooth above. And it like I couldn't close my mouth. I had to like open my mouth extra wide to get my mouth to like unhook. It was just a weird thing that happened. And I had to go to the dentist and tell him to rip my last tooth out. But that was a good freaking tooth. He pulled out of
Hmm.
my head. He pulled it all out in one piece and it was this beautiful wisdom tooth. And I was like, man, I think
I'm
there's a
supposed to
scam.
have that.
There's a scam going on here with that because
Uh-huh.
like, how many people, through time and time, like eons of time, were we always ripping wisdom teeth out of our head? No, I don't think so. Like modern dentistry is relatively new, so I would implore people if you have healthy teeth, your children, let them try to grow their wisdom teeth in. I tell this to my children. I'm like, you got to try to grow those things in because now I want mine back and I'm never getting them back. What are they going to do? Like drill, I would have to get braces to put all my teeth back where they were. And then they would have to like put false wisdom teeth in the back of my mouth to keep the rest of my teeth in place. Just saying, there's something wrong with them always ripping your teeth out like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, and just finding any kind of excuse to drill into it. And I'm telling you that whenever you go to the dentist, make sure that you ask for a copy of whatever scans they're giving you. Okay, all of your dental X-rays, because I did that, and one dentist just refused to do that. So I ended up going to a new dentist because I'm like, okay, if you're not going to just give me my X-ray so I can observe them, every time I come in here, because I feel like you guys are like saying I've got too many cavities here, like always finding an excuse to work on me. And so I go into
Mhm.
this new dentist, and they actually are much more transparent with me, and they're giving me my copies. And now, oh, look at that, fewer cavities. Coincidence? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's fishy, man. It's fishy.
Oh yeah, there's people just trust their dentist like that, and
It's like you're a teenager and they're like, oh, they got to rip this out. I'm like, but
Why?
it just doesn't make sense.
healthy people, they don't make very much money from them, and so that's the whole thing. And so
Right?
if they
And then
can
so
find
now
an
you're
excuse to make more
a
money from you, they
lifetime,
will.
right? But now you're a lifetime dentist customer, right? Because now the rest of your teeth are moving out of place. Like, I feel like that's why I broke this one tooth here because I was biting and my bite was not lined up anymore. And then I, bite down on something and the tooth cracked, like right in half.
Dang, yeah. If I've got 3 other wisdom teeth in there and they're going to start growing in and that, yeah, I could see that could cause some major problems for them. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's just take one out and leave the other 3. Yeah, that could be a big mess and way to make some money off of that.
Mm-hmm. The dentist cash cow, straight up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. That is a big sidetrack from RH negative. But there is a lot of deception in the entire medical field. That's something we all learned the hard lesson the last 5 years, right?
Yeah.
We all learned that lesson.
Yeah. Hopefully it's going to pass on to the next generation, because it took us too long to figure things out like this.
Now, I remember back in the day, I went to elementary school in the mid 80s. That's when I started elementary. And it was either first or second grade, but they had like this, it was kind of a bus, but it looked more like an ambulance without all the bells and whistles and stuff. And it was a blood mobile. But they didn't come and take blood from us. They just came and tested our blood to see what our blood type was. Didn't ask our parents, nothing like that. Just came to school and everybody got to go out there at recess and get your finger pricked. And I remember I asked him because he told somebody in front of me that their blood was special. And it was because they could give it to everybody. And I asked him, is there anything special about my blood? He was just like, nope.
Do you know your blood type?
A negative.
And he said there's nothing special about it?
Nothing special about it, he said. Nope.
That sounds like really fishy.
Well,
It
I
just
guess really it's
smells
not,
like
other than its
they're up to
rarity.
something. Kind of going around with the bloodmobile, just doing tests on kids and like no notifications to parents or anything. Yeah, that's definitely really fishy.
I hope
You
you're A
wonder about
negative.
things like that.
Yeah.
It's funny. Three out of 4 of us here are A negative. I don't know what you are, Kyle, but I'm A negative.
I
Cammy's
gotta
A
go find my dog
negative.
tags and find out.
And A negative is for fun facts, for fun things with it. Connected definitely with the highest and the worst incidence of hemophilia. Trying to remember if Habsburg and some of the other diseases are in there too, but
1 in 16 people, it says,
not
is
in
A
my world.
negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, not here. It's odd though, the even like when you look at the percentage of people who have Rh negative blood versus the people who are in what we're doing, like in flat earth and all that, we have a high percentage of people who have Rh negative blood comparatively to the general population, if that makes sense.
I wonder if you tested social groups in schools, like you had the jocks and then you had this and this, if their blood types would like somewhat predetermine what social group they ended up in.
Or just body types themselves. So like I'm wondering if one body type is more prone to one blood type.
Well, there is a connection between like what diet what is the healthiest diet for you and your blood type.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, I think it's a real thing because when I was messing around like changing diets and stuff, and I did the vegan diet for like 7 months, and then it didn't work out, and I started doing vegetarian, like I added just eggs and cheese. I didn't even add meat for a while. That was a really comfortable diet for me. I liked that a lot. And then when I started looking into blood types, a vegetarian diet was the prevalent diet for my blood type. Of course, now I have Ted here, so the proteins are flowing in this house. So it's okay. I'm okay with it.
I think it probably affects, again, a lot more than they lead on to. We know, like, our blood, in a way, is our antenna and how we connect energetically, in a way, flowing in that. And so, again, on there are traits with the Rh negatives. Some of the physical, and again, you're going to have traits that they skip down generations. This is recessive, so you can have yes, you can have 2 Rh positive parents give birth to an Rh negative, but can you have 2 Rh negatives give birth to an Rh positive? Kyle, you're on the
You asked
spot.
a really quick question.
No, I asked that really quickly. I said I will tell you that 2 Rh positive parents can, for sure, give birth to an Rh negative baby, because you can, and I can plot how you can do that. You just put a behind each one of those pluses, you put a minus, and you have each one of those parents pull down the negatives, and you, as a positive, you can give birth to an Rh negative baby as 2 Rh positive parents. But can 2 Rh negative parents give birth to an Rh positive baby?
No.
I think you said no on that one.
That would be a no. You're right.
Mm-mm.
I'm just seeing how well you're following on that. So again,
I'm trying. There's a lot to remember here.
Wow, this all is interesting right here. I'm going through. Okay, in 2012, a study found that those with blood type AB have a 23% higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease.
Oh, wow.
Compared to those with blood type O. Those with AB type may have a higher risk of stroke than other blood
Mm-hmm.
types.
Now, to me, by the way, and I am not a doctor, I will say this again, I have no medical training. This is not training at all, but looking at these things and seeing how these blood types, again, are allergens to each other. And when you're carrying, again, recessive and a positive, and so many of the things we're looking at are at diabetes, all of this stuff is autoimmune, the cardiovascular. To me, it would make sense that your cardiovascular would be at like a highest rate on the AB, where you have the A, the B, again, naturally
Mhm.
competing, and your O, again, is going to be your purest.
It says O, we're at
Mm-hmm.
a decreased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And blood type A have a higher chance of developing stomach cancer that are not yet understood the reasons. But in all these studies above, it's important to remember that all research is still in preliminary stages. So take all of this with a grain of salt, folks. Just because you have a certain blood type, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in all reality, when you have, I think a lot of it comes down to what you eat and how you eat.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. Who
Mm-hmm.
always said that? THC Anthony. Food is our medicine. Medicine is our food. That's how you should look at food, not as a, you know, as a, a bad little secret, as like a, your little. I call my Red Bulls that I drink. That's my can of poison that I get once a week. I'll have a Red Bull, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
even tell the person, "Oh, I got to go grab my can of poison real quick," and I grab one off out of the thing. But yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with how we eat and what we put in our body determines, what happens to us.
Right, and I think that your blood type also can determine. I think people, a way to put that is like if you're, let's say, fighting, again, remember, like with autism or any of the autoimmune disorders where your body is fighting its own, it's seen as an allergen, you're fighting off something in your own. If you have that mixed blood type, you're in a weaker position to start off the fight. In other words, you're starting off, you need to be more careful about what you put into your body, or more, I would say, as an AO, or as, like, again, looking at the different mixtures as opposed to an OO. You almost need to know that you're going to almost react a little bit more to things, because, again, you're starting off a little bit, again, not medical advice, but just watching and observing people over the years and talking to a lot of people, and it seems to always ring true.
It
A
was
lot of your,
Mark Sargent
pardon?
quoted the tennis player Djokovic about the most important decisions you make in life really come down to what you put into your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very true. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Part two. I don't know if we'll do part three next week, but I know we're definitely going to touch on this subject again. We'll see what we can find, because I know Cami still has some more to share on this topic.
We do have more, but I know that there was a couple other things we did, so we might step away from it a little bit while I'm gathering more information, because we've had a lot of good questions. Put your different questions and thoughts in here.
Mm-hmm. Or comment on the video.
Comment on the video. Non-culty, and again, real questions, just reality. We want to kind of demystify and see why this is so. Right now, you could say it's not mystified, it's not that, but again, look at, again, how these blood types are written, how they're giving these studies. How long have we known about the ABO blood types?
And
Forever,
I'll
in
just
my, compared to your genomes, your DNA, your, all of your different very sophisticated genetics. They still don't even let people know. We don't tell you your child's blood type. They, if you scroll down on here, your paragraph on here, what's the first sentence on it? That they don't find any reason to tell you your child's blood type. Where are you, Zach? Where it says your child, scroll down. Right there. I think it's worth knowing that. Hold on. Go back up, because I just saw the.
write down a little bit. It says why you should know.
Mm.
Your
tells you
child,
why
your
you should
baby's
know, but
blood
it
type.
does say that they like the most obvious reasons you should know, but they say that we don't as a all of these different studies are going to say that as a whole we're not going to bother telling you your child's blood type and we're not going to tell you your blood type. It's really on a need to know basis, and you don't need to know because go and ask your doctor. He says we don't need this on there. I, I want to know why, because I have been at a hospital and I have caught a wrong bag on a transfusion before in reality.
That's scary. That's
Which
really
is
scary.
scary.
Yeah,
And again, but the whole thing about that is people should know their blood types. They should know about it, and the nurses have got a lot of
yeah.
pressure on them and are doing. They're going to be human and make mistakes. So again, if more people are cross trained on it, why wouldn't you know your blood type?
Mm-hmm. I agree. And if you want to know your blood type, and I did this for my children because, well, my daughter and I had a conversation about it, and so she wanted to know her blood type. So I did order the test off of, Poopazon, and you can get it, and it does tell you, it does do the Reese's. It does tell you, it tells you A, B, O, or whatever, and it also tells you the positive and negative, and it comes with a little lancet, and you just put your drop of blood on the little thing and mix it and let it do its thing, and it'll tell you what it is. It's very easy.
Very
And it's
easy and
cheap.
again,
So they
cheap,
just have these
easy.
tests that you could just get automatically that tell you
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll look
Right.
into that because I'm really curious about my kids now.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
And
I
then on
was
the other
too.
hand, try going into the doctor, Kyle, and see if you get the same response I did by asking what my blood type is or by asking a doctor, testing it, see how hard it still is and see if it still is hard to get your own blood type information because they really seem to discourage that. And again, she ordered it there, but me, I wound up going and doing the lab and doing it separately out of there because the doctor was like, no, it can't even be part of this appointment,
Which is nonsense.
which is
I mean,
nonsense.
if
Like,
you're going
why?
in to have surgery, I mean, they have your
And they're going
medical
in and
record.
they're taking your blood anyway. They're telling you all kinds of things. It's like,
If you've had
why?
any type of surgery, they have to know your blood type in case
Mm-hmm.
something happens. They can have it there on hand, ready to
Hmm.
go to give you more.
And I
Yeah, the
have had
So,
doctor's too
surgery,
much.
so again,
Or,
it shouldn't be again, it shouldn't be such a mystery or hidden. Again, this is sixth grade or seventh grade basic science, and it's almost like again they took you that far, they dropped it, and then they jumped us very forward to the genome and all of your very complex stuff, but we're missing on the basics again on looking back, and I'm starting to see that, oh wow, could some of these blood mixtures be causes that go along with again if they were to do something like
Could be playing a
vaccines and
part. I
mm-hmm,
mean, there's something very important about the blood. I mean, especially the way it talks about it in scripture, which is a totally different subject matter, but you know, all the rituals people do that involve blood, it's obviously very important, right?
yeah.
There's it's a very important thing. And without your blood, if you lose your blood, you die.
Hmm.
So, even if
makes me
everything else
wonder
is
too,
okay, if you take the
looking
blood out, you're
mm-hmm,
done.
you're done. The scriptures to the way that they do this, and I'm a total novice in learning with you, Karen, and you'll do more, but it was the direction I was going in years ago with it, because I didn't know but when they talk about the different impurities in the blood and they were talking about the different civilizations, and I was told flat out, I think it was Rob Skaber, I'm not quite sure, saying no, the people were evil, it wasn't the blood, but I was wondering about when they were told not to mix with different people in the Bible because the blood wasn't pure. Is it because like the blood wasn't pure, meaning the blood wasn't pure?
Hmm.
I really wonder about blood types now because
Hmm.
that's been a big question for me that I keep thinking about. Is I want to know about the chronology of all this. When did one blood type come about, and which one was the original blood type?
Right. A lot of fun information. You go to a lot of different areas. Depending on where you look, you get different answers on it. RH negative, I shortcut you guys last week because I took you to the end first, but I took you in a backwards fashion to where again through all the different oral histories and that to the Indus Valley 3,800 years ago where people were scattered after a war, and that seems to be again where again, they talked about people fleeing to Scotland, fleeing up the Caucasus Mountains. That seems to be almost, again, the
Origin.
origin
Yeah.
of it. But again,
Absolutely.
we'll go back there, and so leave you guys with more questions and answers. Is a good one. We want that. If you guys
I'm
like this, we'll go back more to it.
I'm interested in finding out how our blood types compare with that of dogs and chimpanzees and all these other different kinds of animals, because it's very fascinating how different our blood can be. It seems like, oh, blood's blood, it should be a very similar concept, but no, it's very different. And yeah, chimpanzees apparently only have 2 blood types, and yeah, I'm like, huh, interesting.
Yeah, I've never even thought about looking into animals and their blood types.
Yeah, it's different. This is a deep rabbit hole.
It is a deep rabbit hole, and you have
Mhm.
even again a lot of the people that will sit there and take the subject. This one, I don't know what the quote was, but you know how they say that we're so close to monkeys, like our DNA is so close to monkeys or whatever. You can by the same logic say that people that are RH positive are closer to monkeys than they are to people with RH negative if you're using their logic in the way.
So silly.
So there's no way. I mean, again, you have to go, and this is where you're getting rid of the nonsense and this stuff, and we're looking for a little bit of reality with this.
Yeah, it's
So,
very suspicious that they don't encourage you to know your blood type, especially when you
Mhm.
look at like, how do you talk about lineage? You go, "Oh, what bloodline are you?" You know what I mean? So there's
Hmm.
something, yeah, it's almost like, you know,
Occulted.
yeah,
occultedness.
but not overtly. It's just like they're like putting distractions out there. It's not like they're saying, "Don't look at the blood type." They're just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't matter."
No big deal.
No big
Yeah.
deal.
They're no
But
big
it's
deal,
like
and
how
again,
they
throwing the
treat the center, right? Like the center of the earth. They're always like, "Don't go to Antarctica. You can't go there." But they don't even talk about the north. They're just like, "Oh, it's no big deal."
No big deal.
But everything revolves around the north, so
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we're going to get out of here. Karen, what do you got coming up this week?
probably anti-religious scripture study on Saturday. And I'm slowly working through Flattoberfest videos, and I'll be releasing those as they become done. But
Awesome sauce. Yeah, I saw One Big Loves was out. I caught that. Nice. Excellent, excellent. All right. Kyle, what you got coming up this week, man? What are you getting
This
into?
week I'm taking a moment to talk about politics, just for a week.
Is the season. Yeah.
Tis the season, and it's just kind of up there, and it's kind of a way to branch into some different groups that I don't normally talk to, and so it's fun kind of trying to introduce that and finding different common aspects. And that's kind of the interesting thing with when it comes to flat earth is we're like a whole other group here, because like we don't trust the government, and so we don't exactly fall into one party. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot when it comes to libertarianism that we end up finding a lot of being able to relate to, but when it comes to libertarianism, we don't trust the 1% very much either. So I think that's kind of the big, huge flip is, oh yeah, we want to just jump into libertarianism, but how much of that is just letting the 1% run free? You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of different aspects to different parties that it's not all just a clean cut, here you go kind of a thing.
well, how well of a job do you think the big government we have now, is doing at reining in the 1%?
Well, I think the 1% is just puppeteering the government right now. And so it's kind of this battle to try and figure things out here on like, how do we rein in the 1%, but not just give them more power?
It's almost like the damage has been done,
Yeah.
That the crony, I don't even call it capitalism. I consider it crony capitalism. Once corporations, were allowed to start just straight up bribing politicians. I mean, we call it something different. It's not bribery. It's lobbying, right? That's what we call it. but whatever you want to call it, it's bribery, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be allowed. And it's allowed things to get to where we are now, and I
Mhm.
don't know how to put it back. I mean, they've amassed so much wealth in the last 50, 60, 70 years that how do you set it back to how it's supposed to be? It's
Yeah.
almost impossible when you think
It's just
about it.
appalling to me that you can't even get into federal offices unless you're part of the 1%. Like, it just requires so much funding in order to get in there. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of reform that just has to happen. And, there's only so much we can do. But the main thing that I think the most important thing we can do is just talk about the issues. It doesn't matter what party you're in to, whatever, because there's going to be different aspects of different parties that we're all going to relate to. You know what I mean? And so I don't like everything about the libertarian, but there's a lot I love about the libertarianism, and there's so much with other parties as well. I really like these aspects, but I definitely don't like those aspects. And so
Yeah.
it's not exactly, red or blue. There's a lot of mixture that goes into everything. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah. But the
Well,
main thing we can do is just talk about the issues. That's what's important. And that's the more people talk about the issues, the more change we can actually implement.
yeah, open, truthful dialogue is the only way forward. Everything else is going to set you back.
Yeah.
Especially
Just
when it
remember
breaks.
that, yeah, all it takes for evil to prosper is for good men to sit and do nothing.
That's right. That's why we all do what we do here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, and Cammie, what do you have coming up this week?
Hopefully, let's see. We'll be looking at some of the pretty things. Let's see where the camera is.
Gonna show off your rocks tomorrow? We can.
Possibly, we're hoping Miss Shauna comes over and oops.
That's a big one.
And this one's gonna glow. I wish the color would pick up as pretty as it is, and I wish I could see this is where the camera is, and I feel like I've got that gigantus. Hands, but you've got some beautiful crystallization going on here and points. But
yeah.
All right.
Love the fluorite cubes.
Love the fluorite cubes is right. And
Yeah,
yes,
next
this one
time
glows.
you come out, you got to come check out the rock shops over here, because we've got like a different rock shop on every corner. Yeah. they got some
Yeah,
great
well,
stuff,
it's
too.
like that out here too. Any place that's real mineral rich,
Oh,
like
yeah.
where you are, it's like that. Which is great. We're all
Yeah.
about it.
Galena.
Oh, wow. That was really pretty.
Yeah, it's like a silvery version of pyrite.
Wow. That is gorgeous.
So
It's heavy too.
Really heavy.
Yeah, she got some toys.
Have some toys and stuff to go through. So yeah, I have hard rock work to get through.
I can just imagine the reaction and feeling of the person who like discovered that, and just out hiking one day and kick that up and just like, wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep, makes me jealous. Makes me want to go digging again soon, and I have no excuses. Just right down the hill.
There's more out there to discover, folks. 2017, Euperlite was discovered, and this is a mineral that is sitting on top of the surface of one of the Great Lakes, right along the shoreline. People visit these shorelines, so much, and yet not until 2017 was it discovered. So, look around. There, you might be picking up and throwing a rock that, hasn't been discovered yet.
Don't get lost in the Truman Show mentality. Oh, it's all been discovered already.
That's right. There's so much out there.
Don't fall into that.
Well, all right. And as for me, you can catch me tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. What is that? 6 hours, 50 minutes from now. Be live over on Iron Rail Media or freeworld.fm. It's a website all dedicated to free speech and truth, started by Billy Ray Valentine. Starting to pick up a little bit more over there, I think. We're getting a little bit more traffic, so that's awesome. And then tomorrow night, Iron Realm Media's Have No Sphere. We're going to be having Plain Reality, I believe his name is. Don't quote me on that. Let me see. No. He was on GLOBEBUSTERS Sunday. He's going to come give his presentation to Iron Realm. I know Cammie didn't get to see it. She was rock hunting, and I don't believe either Walt or
Me
Josh got
too.
to see it.
I didn't get
Yeah,
to
and
see it
Karen
because
didn't get to see it.
I was with Cammy in the rocks.
And
Yeah.
Emily and Crumb, they didn't get to see it. And nope, yeah, we were definitely so looking forward to that. It's tomorrow night.
Yep. And then, of course, GLOBEBUSTERS on Sunday. Besides that, I've been having a real hard time trying to come up with. I mean, I've always been really good at seeing a picture or seeing something and being able to draw that. But when it comes to just making stuff up in my head, I've never really had that talent when it came to drawing. I'm good at, redrawing something that I see, but to just make it out of thin air. So I'm having trouble with the books. I crumbled up lots of pieces of paper. I'm thinking I'm going to get back just into writing, and then I'm going to finish writing the next book, and then I will see if I can't find maybe somebody to do some drawing, maybe pay somebody. We'll see. But if you are interested in children's books, the link is down in the description. They are all about teaching your child to look around at the world around them and observe. That's what they're promoting. That's it. No nefarious agendas trying to be pushed in these children's books. It just tells your child to look around and observe and what they're probably going to see happen. So that's it. Anybody have anything else before we get out of here?
Send me a script. I'll see what I can illustrate for you. I have training in illustrating, so.
All right. Awesome, Kyle. That'd be great. We'll work something out. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So that's going to be it for this week's show. We will see you all back here again next week. Thank you all so much for joining us. Remember, be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind because there's truth inside. Peace out, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.
And love.